let's talk to Nate. Nate from Canada. I love it when fellow Canadians are calling. I said many times we have a Canadian takeover here. Hi, Nate.
Hello, fellow snow sister. How are you?
Hello. How are you?
Doing great. Hi, Scott.
Hello.
So, real quick before we get into what I called in about, this whole United States is a Christian nation thing is pretty silly argument, especially when people bring up that most people in the United States are Christians. Well, I'm drinking a beer right now. Beer is mostly water, but to say that I'm drinking a glass of water is a pretty big stretch, because this tastes a heck of a lot better than water. It's kind of like a composition fallacy, kind of, right?
Yeah, it could be. I think we've been trying to get into the nuance of it though today, Nate. Like, I don't think that either of us would say that constitutionally that the U.S. is a Christian nation.
No, it's
but
not.
It sure as hell feels like it a lot of the time with the influence that Christianity has on policies.
For sure. Well, I wouldn't be Canadian if I didn't make a beer reference, right? So
yeah, that's true.
What I wanted to talk about, I wanted to talk something you guys have been talking about is maintaining relationships with theists, which is something that I do. One of my oldest friends is a theist, very, very religious, and we get along great. And we actually talk about God and my atheism a lot. So yeah, it can be done, but I'm having a bit of a struggle professionally, and I wanted to get your guys' take on it. So I have a new apprentice at my work. He's a Muslim. He's an immigrant, fresh to Canada, and I'm having a little bit of a struggle dealing with his. I don't want to say proselytizing, but he's just constantly bringing it up. Like the first day I worked with him, he was telling me that Judaism was the oldest religion, and I'm like, well, no, Zoroastrianism is way older than Judaism, the religion of the Sumerians, right? He said, well, the pyramids are the first man-made structures. I'm like, well, Göbekli Tepe predates that by like 6,000 years, and we now think it's a brewery, so no on that too, and all sorts of wacky things. And I'm kind of getting through to him. He's kind of admitted that some things in the Quran he doesn't follow. He drinks alcohol, he's ate pork. But I'm just wondering, how do you deal with that as a professional, especially when I'm his boss? I don't want to alienate the guy. I don't want to embarrass the guy. I also want to remain productive at work. But how would you guys handle the confronting bad ideas as they're thrown up to you during your workday?
Oh man, that does sound really tricky. And I mean, considering too that you're his superior, obviously that's going to be more tricky than if it was just a friend or somebody that you know. Have you shared with him kind of your position?
Oh yes.
Yeah, and he still wants to talk about it. I mean, I know we talked earlier. I just said earlier that using a street epistemology type style of conversation is something that is harder with the people that you know. But have you tried doing something like that with him? Maybe rather than just kind of counter his claims with because I think I agree with you. Some of the things that he said are just flat out we could easily show him that they're not true. But going at it with a Socratic kind of method and questioning and getting him to come to a different conclusion on his own, or to question his method for how he got to that information. It's a little bit less. It's obviously a less quick way to respond to somebody, but it might have a better, longer, long-term output, or not output. You know the word I'm thinking. Long-term
outcome.
Thank you.
Outcome.
Yeah.
And I do try, because we do have some time in the vehicle before we get to the job site, and I do try to practice some SE on him. Well, where did you get that information? Why do you think that's true? That kind of thing. And this is what I think is getting through to him. But again, I don't really have the time for these conversations, and I don't know if I really want to have them at work, right? Like the ACA and what I do at the ACA as an activist is kind of what I do in my free time. And in my professional time, I want to get to work, but on the other side, I'm just like itching to be like, well, why do you think that's true? And then it's another 20 minutes before we get anything done.
It's a huge commitment to like have those conversations, right? And I can imagine that could be very distracting when you're trying to get work done. I mean, obviously, as his superior, you probably have some authority to say, like, you know what, we're just not going to talk about this, like maybe on the work, like while we're at work, because I just don't want to be like wasting time or, you know, falling behind or whatever the jobs are. You could tell him to call the shows or make a plan to talk to him at a certain time and have like a time limit on it. Like maybe like, hey, well, let's go for a beer on this night and we'll talk about some of these things. But otherwise, I just kind of want to focus on work while we're here. Like, would that be something that would be like even workable? Or maybe just the conversations can happen just while you're on the drive. Like having some sort of time frame so it doesn't just constantly crop up throughout the day, whenever. That would kind of be my suggestion, I think. Any ideas, Scott? I feel like you got something brewing over there.
No, I don't
We'll keep the beer themes going.
Because I haven't worked in an office or in a physical location. I work from home. Been working for myself for like the past 4 or 5 years. So I haven't really had to deal with anything like that. And when I did, I never really worked with anyone who was religious. Most people were secular. And if they were, I didn't know. So they were doing their job. So
haven't really come up with that kind of thing.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. It just depends on it always depends on the relationship, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
This is what I want to be careful of, especially coming from a position of authority. Like, I don't want him to think that he's losing because I'm in charge and I'm like, no, we can't talk about this right now. I do want him to be able to feel like he can talk to me because he's really interested in it. And I think I'm getting through to him. Like he's already admitted that he doesn't follow the Quran and that he doesn't practice it and that he doesn't, he's not a practicing Muslim, quote unquote. And I'm like, well, then what do you need your book for? If you're not doing what it says, if you're not doing what the prophet says, and you're just inventing your own version, what do you need the book for? Right?
Comfort.
Yeah.
I think I'm planting seeds and I want to plant seeds.
You know what? I have a feeling like you probably have a hard time not wanting to have these conversations too when it comes up, right? Like if he's bringing it up and you probably have a lot of things you'd like to say when that happens. So maybe also just being able to like temper your own excitement. So like if say, let's talk about it on this, like at this time, or like, let's just try to keep this conversation. I know I maybe am projecting because I know I'm like that. When somebody brings something up, I jump at the opportunity to have these conversations, but sometimes I need to hold back myself a little bit too. And think about like, okay, what would be a more appropriate and more productive time to have this conversation? So be like making a time where you plan to like have that, like hang out. Maybe, I don't know what your relationship's like maybe you can have these conversations, or maybe you do go out for like a good Canadian beer at a pub to watch some hockey or whatever. On certain nights and say like, let's okay, you bring me all your toughest questions or whatever, and we'll have this conversation at this time. And just maybe, I mean, I think the word I'm looking for here is just boundaries, like just creating some sort of boundary around it.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, is that I'm not super good at that as an out queer construction worker. It's only a matter of time until he finds out that I'm engaged to a man. And he's already made some pretty misogynist comments about women. And I'm like, dude, no, not around me. But again, this is going to come up. So I don't know if I really want to go out with a beer with the guy, because as soon as he finds out that I'm not straight, he's probably going to shut down.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
I don't know what to tell you about that one. That one's hard.
That is a hard one. Yeah. I would just like maybe, tread carefully, decide for yourself where your boundaries are going to be when you want to talk about it. And obviously if there's things that are like totally inappropriate that he's saying, like keep telling him like, we're not talking like that on the jobs, like on the job site, like it's just inappropriate, man. Like, let's not have this conversation. and be patient, I guess, patient with these conversations. If you said you already made some headway with him, maybe there's more progress to be made with him. So I mean, it sounds like you're kind of doing a good job already.
I think I am. I don't want that to all go out the window when he finds out that I'm gay, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like that's going to bring everything crashing down.
Tell him to go to the tiny.cc/AEN podcast and just listen to that. Tell him to go off and listen to that while he's working. And at the end of each shift, he can talk to you.
Oh, he's listened because I listen to the ACA shows at work while I'm working. So that has actually instigated a few conversations. So yeah, he knows. Trust me, he knows.
All right.
Send him the apostate prophet.
I will try to get him to call in next week and talk to you guys.
That's a great idea, actually. And yeah, call Truth Wanted, because we want him to call here. Yeah. But if he is obviously Muslim, he check the next time that we do have AP or apostate prophet on. I think he's on the Atheist Experience. Get him to call that show, because that would be a great host for him to talk to too.
Yes, that's brilliant. Yep. That is brilliant, Erin. See, I'm so glad I called in.
I can't take credit for that. It was all, which direction should I point? It's Scott. He reminded me.
Apostate Prophet is an excellent resource. I don't know anything about Islam, and every time I watch something that he puts out, I'm like, wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, that he would be a great resource. Even maybe for yourself, Nate, too, just to go listen to him a little bit, so you have some more insider kind of understanding of Islam, so that you can talk to him. Do your little homework.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I have read the Quran, but it was years ago, and to try to retain all that stuff, I just don't have. I'd rather read books that make sense, you know.
Yeah.
But
don't blame me.
That's great advice. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for calling. And we'll see you.
Thank you for talking to me.
We'll see you around.
I'll see you around. Great show, guys. Thanks for talking to me.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks, Nate.